Class, today we're going to be discussing the Surah Al Qari'ah, known in English as the Blast. Allah says, the day of the blast. What is the day of the blast? How can you ever understand what is the day of the blast? Let's see if Allah helps us understand about this day as we read on. Class, have you ever stopped and looked at a street lamp at night? Did you notice how the moths fly in circles around it?
Yeah.
Allah says that on the day of judgment, people will be so confused and scared that they run about just like the moths around that light.
Oh my God.
Then Allah says that on the day of judgment, the mountains will be broken into pieces that will fly through the air as soft as wool.
Oh my God. Can you imagine that?
Have any of you ever blown on the white fluff of a dandelion and watched it float away?
Yeah. Remember?
Think about the mountains, how solid and unmovable they are. Can you imagine one day that they will just float away like the fluff of a dandelion? After all those unimaginable scenes, Allah says that for the person whose scale is heavy, he will have a lovely and pleasant home in Jannah.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
But for the one whose scale is light, another home is waiting. Do you know what home is waiting for this person, class?
The hellfire!
What kind of scale is Allah talking about in this surah, class? Think about it, and we'll discuss it the next time we meet. Amina thought this was a pretty cool surah. All that stuff about moths and mountains turning into soft wool. The surahs they'd been studying lately were about the Day of Judgment. But Sister Layla said these surahs weren't just about earthquakes, blasts, and noisy and scary stories. Her teacher said there was always a lesson to be learned too. So, okay, what about scales? As she walked home from school, her friend Tracy came running up. She was carrying a plastic bag full of water with a small goldfish inside. Cool, said Amina. Where'd you get the fish? We had a carnival at my school today. They had a game that if you could toss a ping pong ball into a glass of water with a fish inside, you got to keep the fish. I did it. Fish have scales, Amina thought out loud. Oh, don't remind me of fish scales, said Tracy. We were up at my uncle's cabin this weekend. We caught a ton of fish. That was fun. But then we had to clean them all. Disgusting. She wrinkled up her nose. I had fish scales all over me. And the smell? Phew, she said dramatically, holding her nose. Well, gotta go. I need to make a better home for Fishy. See ya. Bye, said Amina. Fish are covered with scales. But how do fish scales fit in with the surah, wondered Amina. I don't think that's the answer Sister Layla wants. Moths, maybe. Fish? No way. As she passed by Anne's house, she heard her practicing the piano. Anne started the same way every time she played. It was what she called her warm-up. When do you get to the good part? Amina asked her once. What do you mean the good part? Asked Anne. You know, said Amina, the part where the song starts. You have to do your scales first, explained Anne. Scales make playing the song easier. At least that's what my teacher says. Amina thought about this now. Maybe the lesson is that you have to work on your scales before you get to the good part. Boring stuff before fun stuff. That sounded pretty good. Maybe Allah didn't exactly mean musical scales, though. But at least it was a better idea than the fish. When Amina reached home, her mom and baby brother were waiting for her. Hurry up, Amina, called her mom. We need to take Hamoudi to the doctor for his checkup. Hey, Hamoudi cutie, you want to go bye-bye? Amina tickled her little brother. They only had to wait a few minutes in the doctor's office before it was Hamoudi's turn. Hello, Mrs. Hassan. My, how you've grown, Amina, said the nurse. Let's get this big boy up on the scale first and weigh him. This is just my lucky day, thought Amina. Thank you, Allah. You gave me a lot of scales to choose from. He's doing just fine, Mrs. Hassan. Exactly right for his age, said the nurse. The doctor can see him right now. Amina went out to sit in the waiting room while the doctor examined her brother. She sat and thought about all the different kinds of scales she'd seen today. She canceled out the fish scales, too light and too smelly. Sister Layla said the good scales were the heavy ones. Musical scales? Music could sound as light and airy as a cloud, but could also sound heavy, thundering, and stormy. Yep, she thought, I think the kind of scale Allah means is the weighing kind that they used to measure Hamoudi. But heavy scales were good. Did that mean if you were fat, you would go to heaven? Amina looked down at her skinny little legs. If that was the case, she was in trouble. No, she reasoned, Allah wasn't like that. It didn't matter to Allah if you were skinny or fat. It mattered if you were good or bad. But how could you weigh being good or bad on a scale? Amina had been lost in thought all day, thinking about the different kinds of scales and what it all meant. Now her little brother was trying to get her attention. He grabbed her face in his chubby hands and gave her a big baby kiss, mouth open wide. Ah, Hamoudi, you silly Willy. I know you love me. She wiped his wet kiss off her face. I love you too. Just learn how to kiss without soaking everybody. Hamoudi ran off happily. Amina thought about how much she loved her little brother. Sometimes when he got into her things, she yelled at him. He would look hurt or cry, but within minutes the smile was back on his face and he would be covering her with his soggy kisses. He remembered her love for him much more than the occasional yelling she did. Thought Amina, I think we're getting closer to this scale thing. So for Hamoudi, hugs and kisses are stronger or maybe way more than yelling and mad faces. He remembers the good for a long time, but forgets the bad quickly. One is heavy, the other is light. Just like Mom, she gets mad at me sometimes, but I know she never stops loving me. The good Amina weighs more on Mom's scale than the naughty Amina. Amina was very satisfied with this idea. Mom and Dad, Sister Layla, and just about everyone she knew always reminded her that Allah was Ar-Rahman, the Merciful. So if behaving in a nice way was more important to a little baby or her parents than behaving in a bad way, how about Allah? Allah says that for the person whose scale is heavy, he will have a lovely and pleasant home in Jannah. Amina remembered her teacher's words. I think that will do very nicely, Amina smiled to herself. I can have a heavy scale, skinny legs and all. Hey, Hamoudi cutie, Amina called. I need another one of those great kisses of yours. And she ran off and searched for her little brother.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم القارعة ما القارعة وما أدراك ما القارعة يوم يكون الناس كالفراش المبثوث وتكون الجبال كالعهن المنفوش فأما من ثقلت موازينه فهو في عيشة راضية وأما من خفت موازينه فأمه هاوية وما أدراك ما هي نار حامية صدق الله العظيم.